WJOP Radio, 96.3 FM, broadcasting simultaneously on Comcast Channel 9 in Newburyport. And our guest this morning in the studio is Newburyport Fire Chief Christopher LeClair. And Chief, good morning to you.
Good morning, Wynn. How are you?
Well, I'm just doing fine today. A little icy today. I had to watch it that I didn't slip and fall on the steps when I went outside. Otherwise, I'd have to call the fire department. You come and rescue me.
Absolutely. There's a lot of coat of ice out there, so make sure you give yourselves extra time this morning. Going to take a little extra time to get the ice off the car anyway, so leave early.
Yeah, leave early and step carefully. That's important. Say, talking about coming around and saving people or serving people. I guess the West End Fire Station is now a birthing center, right?
Yes, sir. It's we have a sign on the door as a baby safe haven, but they took it to new heights last week, or the week of the January 11th. When this couple pulled up out front, said they were having their baby, and they sure were. And the three guys on duty, Bob Morse, John Stromboli, and Josh Messina, went out and helped her deliver a very healthy baby boy.
Ah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we don't like kid calls, but that's a good kid call. When we can go out and help bring a newborn into the world, it's a great day.
So that was like right in front of the station?
Right in front of the engine, right on the front ramp. He pulled up, beeping the horn, banging on the door. He says, "My wife's having a baby," and she sure was. The guys went out and looked. They could see the top of the head starting to come out, so they reverted back to their training, got their OB kit out, which has all the stuff we need for an infant: the bulb syringe to clear the airways, the clamps for the umbilical cord, the shears to cut the cord, a nice blanket, and even a little hat to keep the baby's head warm. And they just went to work, reverted back to their training, and helped her right there on the front apron of Station 2.
How about that? And everybody's doing well.
Yeah, we went to the hospital to see the baby, and baby Jaden is doing just fine. Very healthy baby boy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good news. We like good news.
Now, have you ever had to make a baby call like that?
I have not. I had a couple close calls. Other than being there and cutting the cord for my own 4, no, nothing in the field.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Close calls meaning let's hurry and get to the hospital.
Absolutely. You know, when the mother says the baby's coming, she knows. Yeah. So we've had everything ready before, but made it to the hospital before delivery. But no, nothing in the field. But it's good to see this, and it's these stressful moments where the training comes into play, where you don't have to think about what you're supposed to do. You just do it. Yeah. Your training comes in, you revert back to what you've learned, and you're able to just put all of that into motion. Yeah. You, just like the Patriots. You play and not think about it. You just know what to do. Exactly right. Training pays off. Back to the Super Bowl again.
It certainly does. Now, you mentioned a safe baby haven.
Yes, we're the stations are baby safe havens, and what that means is it's a place that rather than abandoning a child, if a young mother can't handle the responsibility, rather than putting the baby in an unsafe location, and we've all heard the stories of that, they can actually bring the child to the fire stations or police stations and drop the baby off there. Wow. And we're able to make sure the baby gets what it needs.
Yeah. Wow. What a tough call that has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, other things that have been happening around the area, I have noticed that there have been a lot of fires going on. I saw a collection can around some of the stores. They're collecting money to help people from recent fires.
Yeah, there's been some tragedies in the last month, and especially during the cold snap when we had that very cold weather of 0 degrees and 15 below wind chills. Those are always the time, and it happened at my house, when the furnace starts to have problems or the furnace decides it's on its last leg, it's not going to go anymore. Sometimes people have the money to replace the furnaces, sometimes they don't, so they go to alternate heating sources. And that's when the danger starts, when you are overworking the wood stove or using your fireplace to heat your entire house. Or you're plugging in too many space heaters and overloading your circuits. Oh, yeah. Trying to heat wings of your house that normally aren't heated, especially in an older home. Hoarding is a huge issue, because once a fire starts, that's very difficult, not only for the occupants to get out of the house, but for firefighters to get in. As you know, by the time firefighters are entering the building, we're entering in smoke conditions, heat conditions, and if we have to go through paths of clutter in the house, it makes it very difficult for us to not only get to the fire, but also to rescue the occupants. So in the last month, we've had fires caused by alternate heating sources, people using their fireplace to heat, going to bed, leaving wood stoves and fireplaces stoked up. And if you combine that, we've talked many times about keeping a 3-foot circle clear around your heating appliances or even space heaters. We always said space heaters need space. Well, they do. You have to have a 3-foot circle at least around a wood stove or space heater, because as the wood stove heats your home, it also dries out all the combustible materials around it. As they dry out, their ignition temperature lowers. So it takes less to get them to combust. And you combine that with, and we always tell people, as soon as you notice the fire, get out of the house, call 911. You lose precious seconds when you're trying to find your fire extinguisher, when you're trying to put it out yourself, then you risk injury, and then getting out of the house. By the time 911 is actually called, the fire has a pretty good grip on your home. So it's always in the middle of the night. It's always, well, not always, but in the middle of the night. One of them, the fatal fire in a neighboring town, was middle of the day.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it's more dangerous at night because you're asleep. You're not aware of what's going on in your home. So if you leave those things going, by the time they put off enough smoke to trip the smoke detector, or enough fire so that you notice what's going on, or your dog starts barking, which was one case in Seabrook, the dog started barking and woke up the occupants, the fire's got a grip on your home. So it's important that we pay attention to space heaters need space. So pay attention that we have working smoke detectors, that we know how to call 911 quickly. We know 2 ways out of the home in case our first way out is blocked. And we're creatures of habit. If you wake up in the middle of the night and there's smoke and there's a problem, you're going to go out of the house the same way you do every other time. You're not going to think of the back door. You're going to try for the normal exit that you go out. But you have to practice and know those 2 ways out. So if that's blocked, you really don't have to think about where the second exit is. You just go to it. So all of these fires occurred in super cold weather. All of these fires had something to do with the heating source. In a couple of them, there was delayed notification of the fire department, which just gives the fire a better grip on the home. In a couple of them, hoarding was a huge issue. If you're elderly and you have mobility problems, and you combine that with clutter in the home and hoarding issues, it makes your mobility, your ability to get out of the home, it hinders it even more. It also hinders our ability to get in the home and find you when you're having trouble getting out, because you have all this stuff that you don't need. And I try to use the rule at home. If you haven't looked at it in the last year, you don't need it. So keeping magazines, keeping newspapers, keeping stuff. And some people have these afflictions where they just have to shop. Yeah. And they just compile more stuff and they like to throw things away. And that just contributes to the fuel load in your home. Not only does it make the fires more intense because there's more fuel, it hinders your ability to get out. You combine that with home oxygen use. Now, oxygen itself it's not if you have oxygen, you're going to blow up. But everything needs oxygen to burn. And if you have oxygen delivery systems in your home, you're increasing the level of oxygen and the ability of that fire to rapidly burn.
You mean oxygen?
Medical oxygen.
Oh, okay.
That's why they tell you don't smoke if you're on medical oxygen, because you're increasing the chance that it makes your clothes, they burn easier. Yeah. The couch you're sitting in burns easier because you put more oxygen into the atmosphere, and the fire needs oxygen to burn. So a lot of these things came together to make for some pretty awful combinations over the last month, and we just want to get the warnings back out about home safety, especially in cold weather.
Now, whenever it's like the water department, whenever you get a cold snap like we had, there's always a water main break, and it seems like there's always fires in really cold weather like that. How do you guys operate when you're covered with ice?
It's actually can be quite trying. It's miserable to be out there, just letting the dog out to do his business, and you can't wait to get back in the house. But we do have the gear. We gear up in layers and we go out there, and it doesn't really matter what the weather. We have a job to do and we go out to do it. What we find ourselves doing is we have to really watch the equipment, because we're dealing with water, we're dealing with machines that are struggling in cold weather. We've got to keep the lines from freezing. We've got to keep the pumps from freezing. We've got to keep water moving all the time to keep it from freezing. We've got to watch the trucks, make sure they're not having issues. But we really have to watch our personnel. So that's why a fire in the summertime may go to 1 or 2 alarms. But in the wintertime, in severe cold like that, or even in severe heat in the summer, that fire may go to 3 or 4 alarms because we're going through people that quickly. We can't leave them get overheated in the summertime, and we can't leave them out in the cold for that long, especially when they start getting wet. We have to rehabilitate them, get them to the coffee, get them to auction if they need that, get them to dry clothes if we have them, and bring in fresh companies to finish the task. So we're not leaving our personnel out there and exposing them for that long.
Now, we did have a stretch, and I'm not complaining, but we don't have the snow right now. But when we did get a lot of snow, I know that Salisbury put out the word that they were asking people to shovel around the hydrants and not to plow snow onto the hydrants and things like that. Same problem in Newburyport? It's
the problem everywhere. We put the word out to as many contractors as we can that we don't need you covering the fire hydrants. That just makes it worse. Most of them are pretty good about that. A lot of our neighbors are very good about getting their hydrants clear. Some people that are, especially in neighborhoods where one neighbor that does snow blows his driveway always does that fire hydrant religiously. But we send the crews out after a big storm just to make sure we can find the hydrants. And the water department's really good about if they see it, they'll uncover. But we'll go out, we'll send the crews out, and you'll see them around town after a big storm shoveling out the hydrants. So any help anybody can give us, it's called Adopt a Hydrant. So adopt a hydrant in front of your home, work with us to keep it clear. It benefits not only you, but your neighbors as well.
You need a 3-foot path around the hydrant, too?
Actually, we don't. A nice circle around it is great. Some people get really neat about it and give us a nice arc around it. We need to be able to find it and get to it. So we don't need a huge project. Just make sure it's uncovered. We can get to the front of it. That would help us out quite a bit.
All right.
We can move the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know how much space you needed to hook up a hose or anything like that.
In the old days, lots, but these days we're just going basically, the front. We may hook up the 2.5 on the sides, but the basic thing, the most important thing, is get to that steamer connection on the front and be able to turn a wrench on top. So again, people just help us out by locating them, clearing them out so we can see them, we can get to them. That'd be great. But like I said, we'll be out there, we'll be doing it. And that's why we're having these, getting the word out still. It's easy to drop your guard when it's 50 degrees out. But we still have a lot of winter to get through. I don't know what the groundhog's going to do, but we still have a lot of winter to get through. We're still going to have a lot more cold weather. We're going to have a lot more snow, maybe. So it's important that people are heeding the warnings all the time. And we can't stress enough, check on your elderly neighbors. Get to know them, visit them, walk over, see what they need, see if you can actually go inside the home, see what conditions are, and do whatever you can to make sure that they're working and they're aware of their surroundings and they know how to stay safe. But keep an eye on your elderly neighbors, and we'll all get through this together.
Excellent advice. All right, anything else you want to let folks know about?
Just to say stay safe. Hope everybody's enjoying the new year. Don't get lulled into false insecurity with this warm weather, because winter is not over.
Patriots or Eagles?
Patriots, of course. Of course.
And you mentioned snow, but hey, spring training starts up. Pitchers and catchers report on the 13th.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing the information. Newburyport Fire Chief Christopher LeClair. OBGYN.
Yeah.
Our guest this morning here on WJOP Radio, 96.3 FM, broadcasting simultaneously on Comcast Channel 9 in Newburyport.